Hi, everyone. I'm Margot Sagel, and I'm welcoming you to Watchung Booksellers, Meet the Author and Illustrator. We're very excited this evening to welcome both. Welcome back, Sharon Dennis Wyeth, the author, and to welcome for the first time Kim Holt, who's the illustrator of Juneteenth. And we are very, very excited to have you both here to talk about this beautiful new book that did it just come out this week? Was it last week?
A couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's so exciting.
Very recently, yes. Yeah, it is exciting. Yes.
It is. So let me introduce you both so we all get a chance to get to know you. Sharon Dennis Wyeth is an award-winning African-American children's author of over 50 books. Her recent American Girl World by Us book, Yvette, The River and Me, along with the new American Girl doll, Yvette, was named the best toy of 2021 by Good Housekeeping. And in 2024, Miss Wyeth's picture book, Something Beautiful, which was a Parents Magazine Best Book of the Year, will celebrate its 25th anniversary in print, which is unbelievable. Something Beautiful is also an author audiobook. And Sharon is a graduate of Harvard University and received her MFA in creative writing from Hunter College. She's a member of the Cave Canem Fellowship of African American Poets and a recipient of an NAACP Education Award. She dedicates Juneteenth, our Day of Freedom, to her third great-grandmother, Minerva Bell Lewis, who she will be pleased to introduce you to. And Sharon is a longtime resident of Montclair and has been a very supportive friend of Watchung Booksellers since the beginning. So we are really honored to have her back.
Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce Kim Holt, who is the illustrator of Juneteenth, our Day of Freedom. And Kim has a passion for art and drawing, has had a passion for art and drawing from an early age, and found great inspiration growing up directly across from the Brooklyn Museum. She strives to capture special moments of joy, a positive outlook, wonder, and even quiet struggles in her artwork, which you will see in Juneteenth. Whether young or old, she wants people to see themselves. Kim has a BBA in marketing from Howard University and a BFA in animation from Academy of Art University. Kim lives and makes art in Washington, D.C. metro area with her husband and two dogs, Sugar and Spice. So thank you both for coming tonight and sharing the conversation with us about Juneteenth, how you wrote it, the inspiration for the pictures, how you work together. I'll remove myself from the screen and you can talk and I will ask some questions intermittently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I was invited to write this book by our editor, Heidi Kilgras, from the Step into Reading series at Random House. And I was really delighted. I had to do an awful lot of research, really. And I decided that it would be a great idea to present both the history in the past and then the celebration in the present, and to find a hinge between them. You know, the history of Juneteenth is something I didn't really know that much about. June 19th, that's what it's, the holiday's name for the date, June 19th, 1865. The Civil War was over. 2 years earlier in 1863, there was, Lincoln had an order called the Emancipation Proclamation that we're familiar with, freeing enslaved people in the rebel states. Texas was one of these, and Texas was far away from the Union, way down south, and many of the slaveholders in Texas ignored that order. So for 2 years, there were enslaved people in Texas working very hard, mainly in cotton fields, who could have been freed, but were restrained. And so June 19th, 1865, Granger showed up with some Union soldiers to make it right, and including U.S. colored troops, to force them to give these people their freedom.
No, and Kim, did you have to research as well?
Oh, yeah. I did a ton of extensive research because I did not know that much about Juneteenth. One of my best friends is from Texas, and that's how I first heard about it, back in college, but then didn't really think anything of it because no one else I knew was kind of talking about it, kind of fell off the radar until maybe a couple of years ago. I want to say maybe 8 years ago. But doing this book and being invited to illustrate it, I did so much research because to me, while it's for children and there's a lot of creativity, I wanted a lot of things to be accurate in the portrayal. And so just kind of looking at Sharon's words and then reading different accounts and, looking up what kind of clothes and down to, money, like what would be the currency, because there were different currencies, just making sure that those things were as accurate as possible in the book. And I like doing the research for it just because then I feel better grounded as opposed to just reading words and then coming up with something. I like to kind of dig deep in and then kind of connect with what she's saying. So yeah, it was great.
And I think all your extensive research, both of you, you incorporated it so beautifully in a version that is accessible for young children. I mean, in a beautiful way. As a parent, you learn something, but your child can deal with the information that you've given them.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I mean, that was very important to me, of course, and I know I can tell from Kim's work that it was very important to her too. Just the concept of slavery itself is such a forbidden topic in some way. Well, it was when I was growing up. I asked my grandfather and different people about all kinds of things in their past, but when I'd asked them about the enslaved people in our family, there was a big wall there because they were very protective, not only of me, but of their ancestors. They wanted to depict their success and their survivorship. They didn't want to depict them as people who had been constrained and led these very, very painful lives. Starting with joy was a very important part of it. And I love the cover because right away we don't see the pain in the past. We're clearly in the present where we're celebrating. We're celebrating survivorship. We're celebrating the success, the legacy of our African-American ancestors and of Americans, of early Americans, because these people were early Americans, not only early African-Americans. I also loved having a hinge between the past and the present that really intersected with joy. So there was a celebration of the people in the past who finally had achieved their freedom, and they were just really ready to go with it. There was a lot of drive there.
I thought also what Kim did so beautifully is like all the different expressions on people's faces, expressing the joy, the disbelief, the anger at finding out that they had been lied to.
It was great working on this book because it had joy and sadness, and a lot of my work I try to bring forth emotions, and so I was, in reading, looking at the words that were presented to me, and then kind of thinking, not so much would I put myself in that place, but like what would I feel right inside. So if you're celebrating, what's the joy that you feel? If you just found out you were freed, how do you balance that emotion with a hostile environment around you, right? So, and then as a people, you can't survive without joy. You cannot survive only staying mired in sadness. And so you still have joy when you're, living your life. You have even, small moments of joy, but just how they were able to express it, contain it, and move on. And so I liked portraying that in the illustrations.
I loved it. I loved it when I saw it because when I was writing it, and reading all these firsthand accounts and so on, I was really feeling all kinds of things. And there would have been a diversity of reactions. And also, Kim, when we had a conversation, it just seemed so authentic and culturally correct that within the public sphere, when Granger came and announced this freedom, they were in the presence of slaveholders. It was in a public setting. So a lot of those feelings would have been contained. And I loved that. I mean, because I thought it was captured right there. You could see, some people were probably very angry that this news had been kept from them. And then the shock and also the extraordinary, vent of emotion, the gratitude,
Well, and speak a little bit about your collaboration or how you two work together.
Yeah, so it's funny, we didn't meet until afterwards, and I asked, could we meet? But we did. I believe we collaborated through editing and art direction, right?
Yes.
And so they would share, the sketches with Sharon, and then they would give me feedback, and then I would either, have, I really think it should be like this, or some, counterpoint, or say, yes, I didn't think of it that way. And so that's how we kind of collaborated, and it just came together. But I think it came together really nicely, because even with the few words, right, that are there on the page for the early readers, I was still able to kind of see some of, they gave me some art notes, right, for Sharon's vision. But then also, I think just when we were talking, we had the same kind of thoughts about.
Yeah, it was really great. It was after the fact that we got together.
And what was there must have been favorite parts and most difficult parts in both the writing and the illustration?
During this experience, when I was writing, something really unusual happened. I had been looking for a particular ancestor in my grandfather's family for some time, because I told you that he wouldn't tell me about the enslaved people. When I went to college, he gave me a name. He gave me one name, and then he gave me another name, and then he gave me the name of a whole family. Then I checked them out in archives, and I was so excited about this. And I stumbled through this town that I'd had the name of where they had lived, Scottsville, Virginia. And I stumbled through there on my way to a writer's retreat 15 years ago. And I said, oh my gosh, this is where Granddaddy's ancestors are from. It's Scottsville. He lived with them when he was a child for a long time. Went to the museum, and they recommended an African-American genealogist in Charlottesville. It's near Charlottesville. And I talked to this man on the phone, and it was one of the most thrilling moments of my life. He said, I know all about your relatives. Yeah. He had already done the research. And because another cousin of mine, distantly related, had already gone there and asked for the research, and I didn't know. But what I didn't know was that one of these people, my third great grandmother, was the first Black female property owner in this town in Scottsville, Virginia. And so I didn't know that, and I found it out right after I had finished writing the Juneteenth book. And I had dedicated it, I don't know who I had dedicated it to, but I immediately dedicated it to her, and I was asked to help write the language for a historic marker on the property. And last year, it was not even a year ago, I'd finished the book. It wasn't published yet. I made the dedication. I found the location of the property. I went down and I saw it. And now here it is. And this Juneteenth, the marker has been approved and it's going to be dedicated. And they asked me to come to the ceremony. And the book is dedicated to her. It's really an amazing thing for me. For somebody else, it might not seem like much, but I wouldn't miss that dedication for anything. So much of African-American history has been lost, and it just feels so thrilling when you can put a name to some circumstances and accomplishments.
And Kim, what about for you, the the best and the most difficult parts of this book for you?
So I would say I looked at it in terms of, doing the research and reading accounts and just in wanting to maintain a certain level of accuracy. And so you kind of like go deeper, right, in different directions. And so you kind of get a little sad and a little depressed. And so that is the best thing for me, was that when I would feel that way, particularly after drawing certain scenes, then I could flip back and forth because there were joyful scenes in the book. So I could do something that was a little heavy and then do something that was more joyful to kind of bring me up. So as I'm becoming, more educated about lots of things, just history in general, and just learning all of these things, I can then, release some some burden after I've drawn that and then flip back and forth. So that was kind of my method of alternating, just so that I wasn't, really like just dwelling so much.
Yeah.
But saying, I'm so happy that I know these things, but sometimes it could get a little heavy.
It's sad.
Yeah. So I was glad that I could do that. And then I also think with my family and my friends, I was like, did you know this? And did you know that? So I kind of was spreading that around to other folks because I couldn't share what I was doing, but I definitely felt like I could share the education or the things that I was learning along the way.
I think it's very striking that you both say how much you've learned through the research and writing and illustrating the book, because I think there still are so many people, adults, who do not know the history of Juneteenth. And even though the Juneteenth, our Day of Freedom, is a level 3 step into reading book for children, I think it really is a book for families to read together, for us to all learn together about this. And
I would agree there, because I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and when I'm drawing, I sometimes ask her for a critique, because I feel like if she can tell what's happening, then I should have a win there. So I would show her just to see, like, can you tell what's happening in this scene, or do you know what's going on? And if she had a point of, like, I don't know, or a point of confusion, then I would make, a revision, particularly to the sketch, but just kind of going through that way, because I also think that while it is for early readers, there will be children that their parents read to them, that their family is going to read and maybe learn about it for the first time as well, just as you said. So making sure that the pictures really support and enhance what's there, so that whoever is reading or being read to can, get that from the imagery, was really important for me.
yeah, it's a beautiful marriage of words and illustration.
Thank you so much, Margot. I do think it is. I'm really happy that we were able to share it, because it's in spite of the fact that it has a painful past in some way, it's also a legacy of resilience and survivorship. And in the second half, I really use the pronoun we a lot. So I think it's an American story.
Yes.
I
think it is so clear. It is strong, a supportive book. It's, I think, a very important book for us all to have. So
thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth.